Welcome. So we have talked about the powers of 10. So 10 to the first power is literally just thinking 10 times 1. It's just itself. So that's why it's just 10. And I think 10 with 1 0. When I look at 10 to the fourth power, I think 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Or in my head, Mr. Morrison's head, you might have a different strategy. I think 10, but with 4 zeros. So as you see, I have 10, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Some people might say, Mr. Morrison, that looks like 1 with 4 zeros. It's up to you. And again, whatever strategy you have come up with, that's going to be super important. And 10 to the ninth power would be 10 times 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 10, or how I think about it is 10, but with 9 zeros. So, and that's why there's 1 and 9 zeros. So that's just, again, however you want to know. But what we're going to look at is multiplying by the powers of 10. So we're only going to look at whole numbers today. You guys aren't ready for decimals. If you're in one of my higher groups, I might look at decimals with you, since some of you have been like rocking it out with multiplying decimals. And again, we'll see. So let's try this out. So first thing we need to do is, if we're thinking about the number 34 times 10 to the second power. So when you're thinking about that 10 or 34 times 10 to the second power, what does this really actually say? Well, this says saying 34 times 10 to the second power is 100. And some of you are like, Mr. Morrison, that we just add 2 zeros. And technically that is right. If you aren't in Mr. Morrison's class, it's not just adding 2 zeros. It's not just 3,400. You have to know the reason why. And I'm going to show you this. And again, you may be like, whoa, or you might be like, I already knew that, Mr. Morrison, that's easy. Give us some harder stuff. And again, if you want harder stuff, let me know and I can get you that harder stuff. But again, you have to do this stuff first in order to move up to that higher level, harder stuff. Because again, some of my kids are like, Mr. Morrison, can we multiply by decimals? I'm like, yes. So I have like 12 kids that are like, Mr. Morrison, please let us try some decimals. So again, if you want some hard stuff, reach out to me. I'll get you some harder math. So we got 34. But if you didn't know, every number has a decimal point here. And since this is 10 to the second power, it's moving the decimal point 2 places. So we have to put our 0. Every number, again, has a decimal point. And again, this is a new thing. So you're going to move it 1 place. You're like, okay. And then I need to put a 0. And then that's just why it actually equals 3,400. Or 3,400 is because you're moving your decimal place 2 place values. And again, it's not just adding 2 zeros, because again, there's no such thing as just add 2 zeros, because adding 2 zeros, 34 plus 0, 0 is 34. So again, just working on that vocabulary. You're actually moving your decimal place 2 places to the right because you are multiplying by 100. So think about that. You're like, Mr. Morrison, what about division? I'm not getting there yet. I know some of you are like, Mr. Morrison, does this work for division? Yes, but it actually makes the decimal go to the left. And again, we're not talking about that yet. I know some of you are like, Mr. Morrison, let me do it. But that is more going to be near the end of January, hopefully. Hopefully we'll be back in school, and then it's a little easier to have conversations, because you're like, whoa, Mr. Morrison. So again, today is you are just literally moving the decimal point, the number of spaces in the power. And you're like, Mr. Morrison, can we try one more? And yes, we can. I'll try one more with you guys. And again, you're like, this seems pretty easy, Mr. Morrison. Seems a little too easy. And again, sometimes it may seem too easy, but it doesn't mean that it is easy. So let's erase this real quick. So say we have the number 343 times 10 to the third power. All right, 10 to the third power. Let's see, that's 1,000 actually. And you're like, Mr. Morrison, I can do this on a calculator, but why would you need to? You don't even need a calculator, because you got the calculator right here in your mind. So thinking about it, I'm going to move my decimal place 3 places. So 3, 4, 3. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3. So my answer is actually 343,000. You're like, but Mr. Morrison, I literally could just write 343. And since that has 3 zeros, I got the same answer. Yes, but can you explain it? That's one of the big things. Miss Stoll, Miss Mauricio, Miss Dyer, we want to hear you talk about it because, again, just saying I added 3 zeros, adding zeros doesn't make sense. Because, again, adding zeros to a number, 1 plus 0 is still 1, so it's not just adding zeros. So, again, please reach out, and if you need any help. Thank you, guys.